Hi, this is Rob Leo, and in this brief tutorial, we're going to take a look at how to deploy a quiz using Google Classroom. In the previous tutorial, you saw me create a quiz. Before we send this off, we're just going to doctor it up slightly. Let's grab the color palette, and we're going to add an image. And what we'll do is just upload a photo. Google's gallery has all sorts of images you could potentially use, but this one I want to use specific to the Mongols, and I don't think they have one here in their gallery. So we're going to upload a photo. I've got one saved to my desktop. I'm just going to drag it up. And you'll see the banner change in just a moment. I can't include the whole picture, but I can include a good chunk of it. Looks good enough. We'll select that, and you'll see that become the banner image behind the scenes for our quiz. There we go. I could send this out a couple different ways. If I was to click send, I could send it in an email. I could send it via a link, or I could embed it on a page. We're going to deploy via Google Classroom. So for the purposes of this exercise, we're going to disregard the send button. This lives in our Google Drive, so we'll just close this for now. But if you do have surveys or things of that nature, it's pretty easy to send them in an email, send them via a link, just copy the link and put that in an email. But again, this is a quiz. We'll assume that you're running a class. Google Classroom is a great way to do that. I'm here at classroom.google.com. I've already got a class set up. I already have a student enrolled. So what I'll do here is on the plus sign, you could make it an assignment if you'd like. That way you could set a due date. Alternatively, you can just create an announcement and put the link into it. It depends on how you'd like to structure things. I'm just going to create an announcement. And we're going to call this the Chapter 15 quiz. And we're going to search Google Drive. It's nice that it comes up as recent. It was one of the more recent things I was working on. We're just going to grab that Global History 15 quiz. You don't really have to change the settings because this is in Classroom and you're sharing it with a class. The settings will automatically be created. If you want, you can create a topic for it so that you can sort stuff. If you put quizzes out there frequently, you can just call this a quiz. And when you're all set, you can either post it immediately, schedule when it appears, or save it as a draft and then post it manually. Notice also if you have multiple sections, you can check the box and send this off to multiple sections all at once. And you can also differentiate which students receive it. If you have a long class list, you can check the boxes for which students receive your post. So let's just post this. And that's it. The students will be able to click on this. What we'll look at next is the student view of this, so you can see how a student would complete the quiz. And then another video, we'll take a look at how the teacher can review the results. Alrighty, I'm here in a student account. And what we'll do is just click on the quiz itself. It should open it up into a new page. I've got my title, I've got my directions, there's the fancy banner. So the student is going to see the point value assigned to each one of the questions. Looks like I made a mistake here, so I'll have to fix that after the fact. But let's just complete this quiz, and I'm going to purposefully get some wrong. I'm not even going to read the answers, but for the most part, you could try to go for 100. You could try to get one wrong. I'm also going to put in a short answer question as well. I'm not going to complete that completely, but let's say I submit it. Okay, tells me my response has been recorded. Now I changed the settings behind the scenes, so I can close this. I'm going to retake the quiz one more time. I changed the settings to allow for multiples. This time, let's pretend that we're going to go for 100. Let me just reread. Silk Road, Angkor Wat. We'll submit it again, and I'll do it one more time again just so you can see another student's response. We'll assume that these are 3 different students taking the quiz. Ready. So the student has completed the quiz. Back on the teacher screen, what we're going to see here, bear with me just one moment. Alrighty, back on the teacher point of view, if the teacher opens this up, and they could open up here in Google Classroom, notice there's an edit button. You could always go to Google Drive, look for your quiz, and open it up that way. And again, by default, you're already on the edit. You're on the edit side of things. Notice we've got 3 responses. We're just going to click on responses. And we should be able to see how the students performed. So we can see responses to each question, or we can see just a summary of responses. We can also see it by individual. By question, we can also see it by user. So notice we can search for a single question and see how students performed. We can also look at an individual. This was the first instance of the submission. We can then proceed to the second instance. We'll assume that these are different students, and we can go to the third one. Or you can just get a summary. When you get a summary, you can kind of see some visual results. You can see some overall scores. And again, you can see question by question how the whole class performed. If you look at the question by question approach, there were 7 questions here. I should have deleted one of them. But you could go through and kind of see how students performed. We had 1 response for the Netherlands. Looks like we had 2 responses for Portugal. We don't know which students those were, but we could see question by question the results. And again, individual, we could see person by person how they responded. So this first person got a few wrong. I'm sorry, the third person got a few wrong. If we look back at the second person, it's nice that they have green indicating correct and when they have red indicating incorrect. So you get a nice view of how things were done. You'll notice that the short answer was not graded. This is something the teacher would have to manually grade. And a nice way to do it, you could either go through by person, or if you want to go through by question, you can just proceed to the last question and you can grade person by person. So let's assume that this person completed things very well. What we could do here is assign a point value for them. Check the box for all points. We could assign 0 points or just mark it incorrect, or we could customize how many points they receive. When you're all set, you can click Save. And now that you've graded the short answer, you should be able to, not only see a summary, but you should also see how each student performed. You could also see this as a spreadsheet. So if you open that up, it's going to create a new spreadsheet for you. And in that spreadsheet, you'll see what the score is. And again, we manually entered the short answer stuff. And then you can see one person's responses in a row, the next person's responses in another row, and then the questions are in the various columns. So a couple different ways to look at the answers. All right, so to send the results back to the students, we're just going to click on responses. And again, there are insights. You can see the class average, you can see the median, you can see the range of points. But then when we're ready to share these back with students, you can see the scores for each student. What we'll do is click Release Scores. We can differentiate who receives their score. We're going to send them back to everybody. And then we'll send emails and release. If you want, you can include a message. We're going to disregard that for now, and then we'll just click Release Scores. Let's take a look at what the student receives. So back here on the student screen, I'm simply going to open up my mail. And you can see that the score has been released on the Chapter 15 quiz. I did this 3 times under the same account. So we'll just open one of those up. You can see the student received an 8 out of 10. When we view it, you can see the answer key, so to speak, with a total number of points. You can see the point values. You can see which questions were missed. You can see what the correct answer was. There's the feedback that I included in the original. In the short answer, I could have also provided feedback, but I did not. But that would be a good space to do it. So let's recap briefly. Again, the quiz was built in Google Forms. It was shared with the students in Google Classroom by simply creating an announcement. The student then took the quiz and submitted it, And again, the final step for the teacher is to go in and grade. If there's any manual grading that needs to be done, you can do so. Again, if you click responses, you can grade by question, you can grade by individual. For the short answer stuff, it's fairly easy to grade by individual question. You just navigate to that particular question. You give your point values and any feedback you'd like to supply. And when you're all set with that, back on the summary page, once again, you can release the scores for the students who will receive those via email. Thanks for listening, and I hope you found this useful.